Hold your arm out, palm up. Now touch your thumb to your little finger and squeeze. Look at your wrist. If a cord just stood up under the skin, you have a muscle you have never used for anything. And if nothing happened, you're one of roughly 1 in 5 people who was simply born without it. Now try to wiggle your ears. Some of you can, most of you can't. Both of you have the muscles for it, and in a minute I'll show you what they're still doing while you sit there. That's 2. There are 6. 6 parts nobody would install on purpose. You've had all of them since before you were born, and you have never once thought about 4 of them. Because you didn't buy this body, you inherited it, and whoever lived here before you left all the wiring in. Think of it as a house. 6 rooms you have never opened. Every one of them still connected to something. And a man outside with a clipboard who has been meaning to sign the demolition order for about 2 million years. He keeps not signing it. Start with the cord in your wrist. It has a name, Palmaris longus, and it is the most honest thing in your forearm because it does almost nothing and it does not pretend otherwise. In a monkey, that muscle helps grip a branch. In you, it runs from the elbow to the wrist and tugs very slightly on a sheet of tissue in your palm. Surgeons treat it as spare parts. If you tear a tendon in your hand, they will take this one and use it, and you will not notice it is gone. Across 26 studies, about 20% of people don't have one at all. And where your family is from changes that enormously. Among East Asian populations, it's closer to 4.5%. Among Middle Eastern populations, over 40%. So 1/5 of the people watching this are missing a muscle, and not one of them found out the hard way. That's the first room. There's a bell pull in the hallway. It isn't wired to anything. Here's what nobody tells you. This isn't one odd leftover. It's one entry on a much longer list of jobs your body kept doing long after the reason stopped. We're working through all of them. Today, the parts themselves. Second room is on the roof. This is the one I promised you. You have 3 small muscles around each ear. In a cat, they swivel the ear toward a sound. In you, they are attached to an ear that doesn't move. But researchers put electrodes on them and played people's sounds. And the muscles fired anyway, pulling toward whatever the person was listening to. Then they made it harder. They buried a voice in noise and asked people to strain to hear it. The muscles worked harder. Measurably harder. 20 people, and the effort showed up in an ear that hadn't turned in 25 million years. Your ears are still trying. You just don't have the hardware to finish the sentence. The aerial is still on the roof. It's still turning toward a station that stopped broadcasting. Third room, and you can check this one in any mirror. Look at the inner corner of your eye, next to your nose. There's a small pink fold there. That is a third eyelid. Not a metaphor. A hawk has one. So does a crocodile and a shark and your dog. It sweeps sideways across the eye, a wiper blade, under the 2 you already know about. One study filmed 591 bird species, across every order of bird there is. In 70 of them, that eyelid is completely transparent. A penguin closes it and keeps seeing. Yours doesn't move. Birds have muscles to pull it. Cats and dogs don't. Theirs springs across when the eyeball is yanked backwards. You have neither. In the entire medical literature, exactly 2 people have ever been born with one big enough to actually cover the eye. 2. Quick one. And only because you're still here, which already beats most people's attention span. If the idea that you're carrying parts nobody designed for you is as unsettling as it is interesting, that's the whole channel. Hit subscribe and the next one's already loaded. The parts other people have that you don't. Right, back to it. Fourth room is the one that hurts. Run your tongue along the back of your jaw and count. About 1 in 4 people are missing at least one wisdom tooth. Never grew it. That's from 87,000 people. Pooled. And you've been told why. The jaw shrank, the teeth stayed the same, and now they don't fit. That story is wrong in a specific and interesting way. The teeth shrank too. Human teeth have been getting smaller for 100,000 years, about 1% every 1,000 years since the Ice Age. What stayed the same was the number. 32. The count never moved. And here's the actual finding. Look at hunter-gatherer skeletons and jaw size and tooth size track each other. Big jaw, big teeth. Small jaw, small teeth. They move together. Then farming starts. And in farming populations, that link just breaks. 292 people, 21 populations, and the correlation vanishes. Nothing shrank on its own. The 2 things stopped talking to each other. The loft hatch didn't get smaller. The frame around it stopped being told what size to be. One more thing about this room, because it's the strangest fact in the video and almost nobody says it out loud. About 1 in 4 people has a wisdom tooth stuck in the jaw, far fewer than the number who have them taken out. And in 2020, Cochrane, the people who grade medical evidence, went looking for proof that a healthy, painless, stuck wisdom tooth should come out. They found one usable trial. 77 people analyzed. Their verdict was that there is not enough evidence to say whether to remove them or leave them. One of the most common operations on Earth, and the evidence underneath it is a single small study. 5th room. This one you can trigger on purpose, and you already know how. Cold air, a piece of music, the last 2 minutes of something. Goosebumps. Under every hair on your body there's a tiny muscle. It contracts, the hair stands up, and the skin puckers around it. In an animal with fur, that traps a layer of warm air and doubles the animal's apparent size. In you, it raises hair that is, for most of your body, functionally invisible. It is the purest leftover in the human body, a machine still lifting a coat that isn't there. Except, in 2020, a team at Harvard went looking at that muscle in mice and found it wasn't only a muscle, it's the anchor point. The stem cells that grow new hair sit right against it, and the muscle is part of what tells them when to start. The winch isn't just raising a curtain that's gone, it's holding up the thing that makes new curtain. And that brings us to the room at the end of the hall, the one everyone agrees should have been demolished. Your appendix. The most famously useless organ in the human body. 2 inches of dead-end tube off the start of your large intestine, sitting there quietly, occasionally trying to kill you. 200,000 of them come out every year, and nobody misses them. Now here's the bit. Somebody went through 533 mammal species and mapped the appendix onto the family tree to work out how many separate times it had evolved. The answer was at least 29, possibly 41. And in all that time, across all those species, it was lost at most 12. 29 times built, 12 times thrown away. You don't do that with a spare part. Nobody knows for certain what it's for. The leading idea, and it is still an idea, not a settled fact, is that the appendix is a safe house, a narrow dead-end pocket, lined with immune tissue, where the bacteria you need can sit out a bad week and repopulate the gut afterwards. Nobody has ever watched that happen in a person. 20 years, still nobody. But 2 enormous studies out of Taiwan found that people who'd had theirs removed were about 1.5 times more likely to pick up a salmonella infection later. 400,000 adults in one, 90,000 children in the other. And to be fair to the other side, losing your appendix seems to lower your risk of inflammatory bowel disease. It is not a simple story, and anyone who tells you it is, isn't reading it carefully. So, 6 rooms. A cord in your wrist a fifth of you don't have. Muscles straining toward a sound in an ear that can't turn. An eyelid that stopped sweeping. A jaw that stopped talking to its own teeth. A winch still holding up the roots of a coat you lost. And a dead-end room that evolution kept rebuilding, 29 times, and almost never took out. That word, useless, was never the right one. Most of these aren't broken. They're just not doing the job they were hired for. The man outside is still holding the clipboard. 2 million years, and he still hasn't signed it. Maybe he's read the file more carefully than we have. So you're not carrying junk. You're carrying a house that's older than you are, with the lights still on in rooms you've never opened. Go and do the wrist one. Which of the 6 are you missing?